Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the September full council meeting. Please be seated.
You're set?
Okay, yeah.
All ready?
Yeah, okay, ready? Right. Are there any apologies? I've got two, Councillor Anderson and the fact that Councillor Marshall is running late. Any other apologies?
Yes, Mr Mayor. Councillor Bestany and Councillor Alan Jack Graves.
Any other apologies?
Mr Mayor, if I may, can I briefly speak on the minutes?
Tonight?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll be brief. Item 4319, Notice of Motion Delivery of Brexit, on the minutes from the 24th, which was subsequently amended, although I totally believe the Council's advice to yourself, Mr Mayor, was made in good faith. We have since sought independent, multiple legal advice, and this all concludes the amendment against the meaning of the motion.
Sorry. Okay.
Sorry.
With respect, this item should have been put forward as a motion under CP 41, which wasn't done, and I'm not prepared to go on with things from the last meeting at this stage. If you care to put it in motion and it is felt right to do it, I'll consider it at the next meeting.
Mr Mayor, you have to, and also any objection has to be on the minutes except on their accuracy.
And I've just taken advice from the monitoring officer who's given me that advice. I'm perfectly entitled to do that. So please, if you want to continue with it, put it forward as a motion and it could be dealt with at the next meeting.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I didn't want a motion, just an acknowledgement. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to continue talking because I'm taking advice, which I would do. We will take a vote that the minutes are acceptable. All those in favour? Any against? Pardon? We're going to item 5 on the agenda. Four. Right, announcements from the Mayor. I'm trying to get through the meeting, you see. Right, I've agreed, first of all, for a late item to be included on the agenda. All councillors will have received a copy of the changes to constitutional appointments required under political proportionation rules following Councillor Froggatt's recent resignation from the Labour Group. I'll be dealing with this item 13 and before discussion and motions later in the meeting. Secondly, on a sporting note, it was terrific to see the Derbyshire Falcons reach their first ever, and the last county to do it, the 20 Blast Finals Day in the competition's 17-year history last weekend. Unfortunately, Derbyshire lost Essex in the semi-finals, but I'm sure you all like to pass my congratulations to the club and the players on this fantastic achievement. Councillor Willoughby, you want to make a comment?
Yes, Mr Mayor, thank you very much. I would like to add I was privileged to be at the event live at Edgbaston, Mr. Mayor, and sorry, I'm trying to get myself heard. Yes, I will, yes. I was great to be at the Brent at Edgbaston, and I'd like to also pass on my congratulations to the Derbyshire County Cricket Club as well, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Willoughby. Anybody else wants to make a comment about Derbyshire's performance? No, thank you. I'd like to continue. I recently had the privilege of watching a young lady perform on the you've got evil minds, some of you, on the television, boxing in Bulgaria. The young lady's name is 26, by the way, is Sandy Ryan. She has won the World Championship for boxing. She's got many silver medals, and last year took gold in the Commonwealth Games in her weight division. Sandy is currently preparing for the Tokyo Olympics, and it's great to hear of her determination and commitment required to get to the very top of her sport. She is, without doubt, a brilliant example to us all and a great role model for the young people in our city.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'd like to speak about Sandy for a couple of minutes. Sandy was from Ulverston, Derby, and is a true inspiration in female sport and boxing world. Born on the 16th of September 1993, is a British amateur boxer who is affiliated with One Nation Amateur Boxing Club, coached by Clifton Mitchell. Many people here will know of Clifton Mitchell, the heavyweight boxer, who's very well known in Derby. During her formative years, she played football for St George's in Derby and aspired to play for Derby County Ladies Football Club, with the dream that one day she may even play for England. However, the day came when she sat with her father for advice and discussed her options with deep regard to her future. She chose to pursue a career in boxing after being truly inspired by her brother, Dave, himself a professional champion boxer. She first set foot in the gym aged 15. By age 18, she was paired with her first opponent and has never looked back. A year later, she went on to win her first England boxing national elite title, aged just 19. In 2014, she joined the GB boxing squad and was swiftly promoted to the podium squad. One of her career highlights, came in 2014 World Championships in Jeju City, South Korea, where she won a light welterweight silver medal in her first ever major international championship. From there, Sandy represented Team GB at the first European Games in Baku, Azerbaijan in 2015, where she won a bronze medal. She then won her second England boxing title in 2016. Sandy was selected to represent Team England in the 2018 Commonwealth Games. It was there on Gold Coast where she really put her name on the map, when she became Commonwealth gold medalist and welterweight champion in the 64 to 69 kilogram category. Sandy works with local community organisations, sporting communities, to engage with young people from disadvantaged backgrounds who face challenges on a daily basis and have limited positive role models. She is currently looking to set up free community boxing sessions to inspire the next generation of young female boxing, and this will be free for all the community. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, it's a remarkable performance. I'm aware of the fact that she, in her short career, has won 12 gold medals. Finally, I'm delighted to announce that Derby City Council's Live Well service has been named the best health and wellbeing initiative in the UK at the Association for Public Service Excellence Awards earlier this month. The service offers free lifestyle programs to help adults and children manage their weight, stop smoking, get fitter, and improve their overall well-being. The 12-month programs combine one-to-one and group support with fun activities and educational workshops to help families change their lifestyles for the better. I'd like to say well done to all involved, a terrific achievement. We're going to item 5 on the agenda. Next item of the business, statements from members of the Council Cabinet. And we have received one from Councillor Matthew Holmes. Councillor Holmes, I understand you wish to address the Council regarding Gigabit City Derby, a full fibre digital transformation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I do. In July, I was delighted to announce that following discussions and meetings, City Fibre had chosen to make Derby one of their next priorities for substantial investment in wholesale fibre network infrastructure and to help achieve our aim of Derby becoming a gigabit city. A 2018 Regeneris Economic Impact Report predicts that, as a result of our partnership with City Fibre, their initial private investment of £45 million will bring the following over 15 years to the City of Derby: £27 million in direct network build benefits, £70 million in private household benefits, £19 million via worker flexibility, £14 million for healthcare, £20 million via innovation in business, £137 million for industry, £69 million via a smart city infrastructure, £19 million in business productivity, £21 million via business startups, and notably £378 million via 5G, and all that will deliver for the city. It will bring about opportunities to fully connect libraries, schools and council buildings. It will enhance public services and bring the public and the council closer together. Delivering integrated systems for traffic management and CCTV will also have massive positive impacts on city living. Delivering public Wi-Fi will also be possible across areas of Derby. It will facilitate super-fast mobile connectivity with secure connections and cloud-based tools that can reduce costs for everyone and increase efficiencies across all aspects of business. Full fibre internet into residents' homes enables benefits such as home working, convergence of multiple technologies, multiple device streaming, ultra-fast gaming, etc. We will be working very closely with City Fibre for the physical installation process across the city. More details on that delivery plan will follow, but the physical installation on your typical street involves underground trunking that is only a few inches wide. There will also be the option of overhead fibre installation in a similar fashion to the traditional telephone network to maximise coverage. This is due to start in summer 2020 and estimated to last for 18 months. Customers are expected to be able to pre-order services in late 2020, 2 months before live date. Those services will be provided by Vodafone. City Fibre forums will also be held to help in maximising the benefits to communities and businesses across Derby. There will also be engagement with landlords, property developers, estate agents to explain benefits and work to devise best plans for new development areas. Community engagement is also an essential part of the delivery process, with residents informed and contacted through multiple channels before, during and after build to minimise issues and ensure as many people as possible are briefed. Meet and greet events in local community centres will be held wherever possible, and exhibits at local and citywide community events. This will deliver one of our key manifesto pledges we made to the people of Derby in May this year. We all know that Derby is fairly well served for broadband services, but it needs to be understood that this is not more of the same. What we are about to embark on is a full fibre digital transformation, simultaneous two-way super-fast communication that will be a game changer for this city. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Well, in accordance with Council Procedure Rule 35, Councillor Holmes' statement was given to all the council leaders of the different parties, and I'm going to invite the council leaders of the different parties, if they wish, to make a comment about this particular Councillor Holmes' statement. So I'll start with the Labour. Councillor Howard.
Councillor Shank.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Labour Group wants every citizen in our city to have access to the highest speeds of broadband possible. We absolutely recognise the benefits this has for everyone. However, Mr. Mayor, this announcement isn't news. It's definitely not new news. It is, however, just a political stunt and misuse of office by Councillor Holmes, who is fast becoming Derby's version of failing Grayling, in order to deflect the sorry state of many projects he's presiding over.
Councillor Shanker, I do not want those sort of things being said about another councillor. Get on with your statement, but don't any personalise it like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Where's the update and the announcements on the assembly rooms, on the A52, on the Guild Hall, on the Market
To
Hall?
order, Mr. Mayor. This has got nothing to do with the Gigabit City.
Councillor Graves. Councillor Shanker, can you keep to the actual thing we're talking about? You're going well away from the actual statement made by Mr. Holmes, so can you deal with that, please, and not any other thing? Thank you.
Sure, Mr. Mayor. We look forward to getting more details on who the investors are behind this scheme. How were they selected? As suggested by Councillor Holmes, what was the influence of the Cabinet over the process of selecting these providers? We look forward to getting this information and over the coming weeks and months. But again, what we'd like to see is some proper project management and not let's see this project fail as many others have.
Thank you, Councillor Shanker. Councillor Skelton, or representative of your party, have you got any?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
This is a very, although obviously belated news, obviously it was announced in July, it is very welcome, and certainly and as is said there, it is a game changer. The amounts of money and then the benefits that it brings just shows what infrastructure can actually do, infrastructure investment can actually do for bringing economic activity and prosperity to an area. It certainly will bring benefits to, I think, just about all aspects of life. But on the infrastructure issue, this does, it's good that on the face of it, a private company has obviously done their sums and realised that Derby is well worth investing in. It's a pity that sometimes I think the government aren't as eager to do so. For example, the cancelling of the Midland Main Line electrification from...
Councillor Skelton, again, I don't want to divert from what the actual statement was, so please keep to the statement.
Yeah, it's still about infrastructure. The point is, though, that government should also be as keen to invest in Derby as obviously a private company is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Skelton. Councillor Graves?
Are you sure, Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor, the Brexit Party in Derby welcomes any inward investment into Derby, especially when it affects so many people in our city. So, well done.
Thank you, Councillor Graves. Short and sweet. Right, we're going to item 6 on the agenda. The most exciting part tonight, questions from the members of the public. Okay. We now, we've had 4 questions submitted, and I'll ask Alex to deal with them. Okay? Yeah,
thanks, Mr. Mayor. I can't see Dorothy here at the moment, so I think we'll move straight to question B, if that's okay. So Mr. Bacon would like to know, what is the latest 12-month rolling tonnage figure for residual waste collected by the council?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't think it's worth me actually reading out all the numbers, so if we can just go straight to the supplemental, that would be great. Thank you.
Have you got a supplementary question, Mr. Bacon?
I have, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Thank you for your response, Councillor Smale. You've confirmed that Derby only creates around 60,000 tonnes of residual waste. With our 190,000 tonne processing capacity at the Symphony Incineration Plant, you now confirm that Derby City only has 1/3 of the suitable waste for the plant. Do you agree with my conclusion that it is correct?
That's correct, Mr. Bacon, yes.
To the next question, which again I think is from Simon Baker.
Simon would like to know, why is the council continuing to state its commitment to gasification through the Sinfin waste treatment plant when the process is considered to be at the bottom of the waste hierarchy?
Thank you very much, Mr. Bacon. Ultimately, we are looking for the best and most sustainable solution for dealing with the city's waste for Derby and local taxpayers. The Council has just come out a very complex contract. We are now going through the process to establish the condition of the facility. This is a process that we must go through and go through now. Work is taking place to assess and determine the condition of the facility, and this will allow the councils to ascertain what measures need to be in place for the facility to become fully operational. We are in the early stages of assessment process, but anticipate information will be available for us to consider in early 2020. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smale. We're going to item 7 on the agenda.
It's good supplementary.
Oh, sorry. Yes, you're right. Yes, you're right, Simon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have got a secondary question. The second public inquiry confirmed the plant locks city waste at the bottom of the waste hierarchy. Noting the previous climate emergency motion, do you agree that, noting the plant's status as a disposal plant at the bottom of the waste hierarchy, that it is no longer the way forward with residual waste disposal for the city?
Thank you, Mr. Bacon. I acknowledge that obviously that the council did pass that motion for the climate emergency. Unfortunately, at the time, we are locked in a situation with the plant that does not give us a clear, significant out route to make it sustainable. We are having to look at alternative options, but ultimately we are trying to go through this process so we can determine what our future of waste strategy is. Thank you.
We'll move on then. Item 7, questions relating to Derbyshire Fire Authority and Derby Homes. We have received none, so we're going to item 8, questions from non-council cabinet members. There are 16, and we'll ask Alex to deal with those.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question E, Councillor Nater would like to know, how is the need for urgent and decisive action on climate change being included in Part 2 of the local plan?
Thank you. In developing the Part 2 plan, we've already identified and begun drafting policies relating to electric vehicle charging infrastructure, air quality and biodiversity. The Council is employing a climate change coordinator who will look at how we can integrate this issue into our main plans and strategies, including evidence supporting the development of the DCLP2.
Supplementary question, Councillor Nater.
I do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your answer, Councillor Holmes. Is it the intention to make best possible use of current national planning legislation to maximise action to reduce the climate emissions through planning system?
Yes, that's right.
Question F, Councillor Lind would like to ask Councillor Smale, what measures are being taken to minimise the amount of waste being placed in black bins?
Thank you very much, Councillor Lind. The Council has reintroduced a free garden waste scheme which is actively diverting waste from the residual waste stream into the garden waste scheme. We have an active communication system strategy in place which will further drive up sign-ups into the scheme. The Council is in the process of reintroducing dry recyclables as an opt-in basis to properties within the inner city wards that had them removed in 2014. We are active in promoting recycling, both on face-to-face basis and through various social media platforms. One of the most recent is, of course, this week, which is Recycling Week. Thank you.
Supplementary question, Councillor Lind.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Smale. Please, can you confirm that you have no new plans to reduce black bin waste since the closure of the Sinfin waste plant?
Actually, I can talk to you about what we're going to be doing moving forward, but as one of the streams to try and reduce black bin waste is actually to make sure no garden waste is actually going in there. So we are looking at policies now that will actually stop garden waste going into black residual waste bins. Thank you.
Please.
Question G is from Councillor Hazelgrave to Councillor Williams. Are the Council Cabinet prepared to reconsider a previous budget amendment seeking to meet the £630,000 shortfall in the high needs block from the Council's General Reserve?
Thank you very much for the question. The Council continues to make strong national representations in relation to adequate funding for schools to deliver the ambitions of the SEND reforms. It is factually incorrect to suggest that funding of £630,000 from the Council's general reserves could resolve the high needs block pressures. Have I gone to the wrong question? Yeah. Oh, dear me, I really do need my glasses amending, don't I? Apologies.
Page 17, Yvonne.
Yeah, no, I've got them. Yeah, I've found it. I've got my sticky boits in. There you go. Apologies, Councillor Hazelgrave, you've got the answer to the other one now. But also, I'll start again. This is not simply a case of financial resources. This is about fully understanding the reason for the huge increase in requests for EHCP plans, which is also the national trend. In Derby, there has been a 66% increase in a request for plans in 2018, and this continues to increase to 2019. The local area, including parents, schools and wider stakeholders, are considering the reason for this demand as part of dedicated and focused SEND workshops with parents and partners scheduled for September and October as part of developing the SEND Ofsted written statement of action. A 2-day dedicated workshop also took place in August, and for information, the Council has so far invested £1 million in SEND as an annual budget to manage the EHCP process. Resource levels will continue to remain under review.
Councillor Hazelgrave, have you got a supplementary on that particular one, please?
I do indeed, Mr Mayor. Thank you for your written reply, Councillor, which you eventually read out very nicely. So then, will you commit more funding and over and above the allocation, if any, in your review points to this being necessary?
Well, as you know, we're currently going through the process of setting out the written statement of action. So we're doing that as a local area in collaboration with both health, social care, the school sector, our parents and carers, and we're also going through our own budget setting process. So in short, the answer to your question is, of course we will, if that's what it deems possible.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. We're going to H. Alex, please.
Councillor Shanker would like to ask Councillor Matthew Holmes, can a comparison of the cost of the Assembly Rooms refurbishment versus a new performance venue be provided to the public?
Thank you. This administration is committed to refurbishing and enhancing the existing Assembly Rooms to deliver a conference, events and concert venue with a new look and new feel, and that will have a great offer when open. We've always been clear in our strategy to open a venue in the heart of a city centre that attracts visitors, spend and investment to the city centre. The costs of the two options are vastly different. The renewal option will not only deliver an outcome more quickly, but at a much lower cost. We've compared the renewal cost with the new build cost, and our approach is less than half the cost, £24 million against £50 million.
Councillor Shanker, have you got a supplementary question?
I do, Mr Mayor.
Thought you might have.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Can you please explain why, again, you have failed to answer a simple question relating to this project on value for taxpayers' money? Is it because the business case demonstrates a new performance venue actually saves the city more money over a 25-year period?
We've completed a value for money assessment for our business case to secure £4.5 million of local growth fund money towards the project. This has been completed by independent economic consultants who have evidenced that for every pound we spend on the new Assembly Rooms project, we will generate £4.70 in return. This represents high value for money.
Question I. Alex, please.
Councillor Peatfield would like to ask Councillor Matthew Holmes, when will a Derby Climate Change Working Group be formed?
Thank you. I believe this council took a strong and positive step in declaring a climate emergency earlier this year. At that time, I was very clear that this is not just about the City Council. Everyone has to play a part. Citizens, communities and all Derby organisations. As a council, we have a civic leadership role in bringing people together. We have been working with officers to set up the foundations to facilitate a collaborative approach. There have been meetings with various stakeholders so that everyone can input into the setup of the working group, but also how we can best use the groups that already exist, so that we are not just duplicating our efforts. I expect to see a first meeting by the end of October to review the findings from these discussions so that we can agree the best way forward. We will also start to review the former strategy and assess where we are now, where we are doing well and where there are gaps. The UK government is the first major economy to pass laws to end its contribution to global warming by 2050. Here in Derby, we want to play our part in these ambitions. Like many other organisations, the Council is constricted by its budget and resources, but it's committed to promoting and understanding this critically important issue and to develop a programme of action to reduce both our own and the city's carbon footprint. Thank you.
Councillor Peatfield, have you got a supplementary question, please?
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Holmes, a review of the findings in October is not actually forming a working group as per my first question. The motion was passed in May, and an advert for a climate change officer only goes out this week. With a 2-month recruitment process, they're not likely to start until December. Now, the motion intends to deliver a carbon neutral action plan by the end of 2019. How do you intend to ensure that that actually happens as per the motion and actually as per an agenda item later on tonight?
Thank you. As you know, Councillor, I attended the Green Forum and I was very clear on the Council's commitment, but also being real about our resources. I can absolutely assure you and fellow councillors and the public that we are working as hard and as fast as we can to ensure that we can take these to our commitment forward and also adhere to the motion that was passed via Council.
Question, Jay.
Councillor Kerr would like to ask Councillor Smale, could additional hospitality be provided at the Markeaton Crematorium during planned improvement works on the A38?
Thank you very much, Councillor Kerr. For operational reasons, bereavement services will be altering the booking times available for funerals, so they are 1 hour apart. Currently, they are 40 minutes apart. This will allow more time for services to run more smoothly. The service will always inform funeral directors about any traffic disruptions that may affect them, so they can plan accordingly. Markeaton Crematorium has waiting areas and hot drinks and water dispensers are available in both chapels for family and friends attending services. Currently, the service does not have the facilities or space available to offer post-funeral hospitality. However, this will be considered as a part of a wider review of bereavement services. Thank you.
Councillor Kerr, have you got a supplementary?
Yes, please, Mr. Mayor.
Can I say I'm surprised at the plan to effectively reduce the capacity at the crematorium, but maybe providing more space for people could improve operations and allow capacity to be increased again. So will you include the expansion here in the capital programme over several years, starting from 2021 for preliminary work, so that it can be opened before the A38 works start?
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. We'll certainly look into that. With regards to capacity, I think we do have the capacity for 17 in one day, and we're lucky to hit 10 at the moment because obviously we are taking hits from the new bereavement services at Ashton. Cheers, thank you.
Question K.
Councillor Potter would like to ask Councillor Barker, what was the outcome of recent checks carried out on taxis operating in Derby City Centre?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Potter. This answer won't be quick, I'm afraid, because I think it's very important that this chamber and the members of the public and members of the press hear exactly what happened in the checks that were made in the recent week. There were 6 vehicles checked. Those 6 vehicles, all were suspended, all drivers were suspended, and in summary the defects are found as follows. Vehicle 1. Offside front brake hose burst when the foot brake was applied during the inspection, resulting in complete brake failure. Near side rear door check strap inoperative and near side rear screen washers defective. Vehicle 2. Near side sliding passenger door safety retainer inoperative. Passenger compartment floor seat runners covered in poor condition. Excessive levels of corrosion present at the point where the roof panel met the rearmost body panel ahead of the rearmost doors. The steel lip which held the seal door in place had completely rotted away, leaving a gap. The steel in that area could be crumbled by hand. Vehicle 3. Floor corroded to excessive points on the offside rear seat mounting point. Evidence of excessive levels of corrosion in the body where the rear roof panel met the body. Engine management warning lights permanently illuminated. Vehicle 4. Clutch defective in operation. Ignition switch with no resistance against the accidental operation when the engine was running in position, presenting a risk of the engine being switched off unintentionally whilst in motion. Offside rear upper anti-roll bar link rubber protective cover not sealing, allowing lubricant to escape and water ingress into the joint. Vehicle 5. Loud, abnormal knock and vibration from the steering when operated. Passenger component floor seat runners covers in poor condition and presenting a trip hazard to passengers. Vehicle 6. Excessive smoke emissions with large patch of carbon left on the road. Near side passenger tip seat frame broken and internal luggage bay cluttered with personal effects rendering it unusable by passengers. 2 of the vehicles were also issued with a prohibition notice by the police at the time. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow councillors, members of the public, this was but one check in the recent past. I and members of the licensing committee have seen and received reports of many such checks and defects in the past 12 months. And yet a decision was made at the last licensing committee meeting to keep these vehicles on the road. It was abysmal.
Councillor Potter, have you got a supplementary?
Yes, I have, Mr Mayor. Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Barker, for that very concerning report. However, can you please tell me the age of the 6 vehicles that were checked and found to have serious defects?
Yes, I certainly can, Councillor Potter. All the vehicles, well,
Excuse me,
important, tells it's not important.
Councillor Barker, excuse me, can we have the answer, Councillor Barker, please? Thank you.
Yes, I certainly can, Council. All the vehicles involved were 10 years old or older, which highlights my very significant dismay, which I've already uttered, in relation to the decision made by Labour.
Councillor Barker, you've given the answer. Thank you. We don't need to go any further. All over 10 years old. Thank you. Right. We'll go on to the next question. Question L.
Councillor Cooper would like to ask Councillor Matthew Holmes, does the Cabinet member agree that urgent action is required to ensure taxis operating in Derby are environmentally friendly?
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Derby currently has an ageing fleet, high emission levels and poor overall condition, and I agree that urgent action is required. A clean taxi fleet is an important part of our commitment to delivering clean air and tackling climate change in Derby. The Conservative administration has been working successfully since May 2008 to submit and secure funding bids for the delivery of many projects and infrastructure improvements / schemes to further our commitment to both. As part of the Taxi and Private Hire Vehicle Strategy 2020 Cleaner Taxis project, the Council was successful in obtaining air quality grant funding to undertake a taxi fleet emission improvement study and engagement programme. Further funding was received from government's early measures funding aimed at delivering the implementation of various electric vehicle charging hubs in the city for Hackney carriages, phased introduction of electric Hackney carriages only to the existing ranks, changes to the taxi licensing policies to further support the air quality agenda. This was based on support of our proposals, such as introducing a 10-year age limit for Hackney carriage and private hire vehicles, and that from 2025, any vehicle being licensed for the first time as a Hackney carriage or private hire vehicle will be required to be zero emission, capable, ultra low emission vehicle. It is vital that we both pursue and implement these proposals and more.
Councillor Cooper, because supplementary.
I do, Mr Mayor. Councillor Holmes, thank you very much for answering the question. My supplementary is, how does the decision made at the last licensing committee impact on your commitment to delivering clean air and tackling climate change in Derby?
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. I attended the committee meeting to show my support of our taxi and private hire vehicle strategy. I was utterly dismayed by the decision made by Labour, Liberal Democrat and Brexit councillors to oppose key proposals. The impact of the decisions made by those opposition councillors is still being assessed, but I have to report...
Councillor Holmes, can you just answer the question and not go into Romans about a meeting, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The impact of those decisions made by the opposition councillors is being assessed, but I have to report that the consequences appear potentially serious in regard to funding and our ability to achieve all of our previously stated aims on clean air. I feel the credibility of several councillors who are outspoken on the climate change emergency must be questioned. To say one thing in public in regard to clean air and climate change and then enter this chamber to actively block measures to seek to assist with achieving both shows a complete lack of integrity.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Question M, please.
Councillor Adrian Pegg would like to ask Councillor Alison Holmes, in light of recent decisions, is public safety the licensing committee's priority?
Thank you very much for your question, Councillor Pegg. A licensing committee's job is to protect the public in all aspects of licensing, including public safety and safeguarding. It is essential, therefore, that all committee members take their responsibilities seriously. The Casey report, which is the report on the inspection of Rotherham Council, highlighted details of councillors making representations on behalf of taxi drivers and blocking or hindering taxi safety checks. Here in Derby, we must learn lessons from that so we do not become the next Rotherham. I can assure you I am committed to the integrity and conduct of the councillors who are currently on the committee. And in light of some of the decisions and representations made by some of the opposing group members at the last committee, my concerns have already been raised about the integrity of some. Thank you.
Councillor Pegg, have you got a supplementary, please?
Yes, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Holmes. It's encouraging to hear about your commitment to the role of Chair of Licensing and how vital it is to ensure those are given the responsibility to contribute to and make informed decisions based on the principles you have spoken about. Do you agree that training also plays a vital part of being a licensing committee member?
Thank you, Councillor Pegg. Every member of the licensing committee attends mandatory training, which includes procedures, child exploitation, disability and equality, and at the forefront, public safety. Currently, there are 2 members who are not trained. They are still being paid their allowance to sit on subcommittees, which they are not allowed to do until they are trained. But I've inquired about this and I want it rectified as a matter of urgency. Thank you.
Councillor Nater would like to ask Councillor Matthew Holmes, what assurances have been provided by Highways England regarding preparations to minimise the impact of planned improvement works on A38 junctions over the next 4 years?
Thank you, Councillor Nater. Well, thank you actually for the opportunity to remind us all about this Highways England scheme, which is coming ever closer. It cannot be overstated just how beneficial the A38 grade separation scheme will be. It will remove congestion, smooth out the traffic flows and improve local and long distance journeys. It will also contribute to better air quality and is something that we have all wanted and waited for many years. It's a major engineering project as the three junctions at Kingsway, Mark Eaton and Little Eaton will be worked on simultaneously. The Highways England application is currently going through formal examination by the National Planning Inspectorate. This process will take several months and we will know better by the end of the year when the works are likely to start, should everything go through that process. My understanding, though, is that it could be as soon as November, December 2020. The works will take at least 4 years to complete, and I'm confident that I'm speaking for the whole Council when I say that I'm anxious about the impact of this construction phase of this project on our city. I met with Highways England's project leads along with the leader in July to start to build positive working relationships with their team. We set about some of our key issues and requests. We discussed our network constraints and pinch points along with our future planned works. There was an open conversation about potential resources to help us manage the demands on our city and our officers. This included communication and technical support and co-location along with support and alignment with our own transport network management. We have secured their engagement with the multi-agency Derby Behavioural Change Group that has been established to maximise the opportunity the scheme presents to move people away from cars and into public transport, cycling, walking to and from the city centre. I believe this was a positive meeting and the team heard and understood our views.
Well, thank you, Councillor Holmes. Have you got a supplementary?
Sorry, I do apologise,
Okay.
Mr Mayor. I do have to continue. I've missed a paragraph. As I've said, I am aware that all councillors are representing our citizens in raising their concerns. I've also heard from partners, not only those located near the A38 like the university, but businesses across the city who are concerned about the movement of people and goods. It will be important for us to work collaboratively with clear lines of communication across all sectors. Along with the Leader and Cabinet, I will continue to press for support and resources from Highways England. Our meetings will be ongoing and will intensify when their contractor is announced and the project plan is confirmed. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Nater, have you got a supplementary?
So Holmes, not a supplementary as such, but just wanted to, fingers crossed and hope everything goes well with this project, looking at the last fiasco of the A52, Mr Mayor.
We'll go to question out, please.
Councillor Hasselgrave would like to ask Councillor Williams, will additional resource be dedicated to improving the timeliness and quality of EHC plans?
Question that it's meant to be. So the one I referred to earlier was the Council continues to make strong national representations in relationship to adequate funding for schools to deliver the ambitions of the SEND reforms. It is factually incorrect to suggest that funding of £630,000 from the Council's general reserves could resolve the high needs block pressures. Options for high needs recovery plans are currently being discussed and considered for a jointly developed plan with the school sector. Whilst there have been recent national announcements to increase levels of SEND funding, it is acknowledged that additional national funding is needed to meet the ambitions of the SEND reforms. The Council does not have the funding for any shortfall in the high needs block and will continue with strong national lobbying for additional SEND funding for our children and young people.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Supplementary question, Councillor Hasselgrave.
Yes, as you may expect, Mr Mayor. Thank you for your answer. You're waiting for jam tomorrow from the government, and certain events may interrupt jam supplies. Are you telling us that you will increase the turnover and quality of EHC plans without spending another penny over and above the current allocation? Lots of other LAs would love to know how you'll do this. So would I.
Well, first of all, that's not what I've said at all. Secondly, just looking at your question, you need to get to know your budgets, because the team that deals with the HCPs are not funded by the High Needs Block. So number one there. Thirdly, we are working collaboratively with the system to try and find solutions, to try and work out and change the systems that have been going wrong. In 2014, the law changed. What changed in this council in 2014 to 2018 to change those systems, to make sure that the funding was made available for those to be implemented? I'll tell you what, not a lot. We've made some progress in the last couple of years, and yes, we have had a written statement of action. But do you know what? I'm taking that and we're using that to make sure that all the things and the reforms that we need to put in place are done collaboratively with the whole area. Not just the council on its own, not just expecting the schools to do it, not just the NHS or the CCG. We're all working together to try and find solutions. And actually, it's a system change. It's turning the tanker. It's what is it? Revolution, not evolution, or is it evolution, not revolution? I could never understand, because actually, you know what? I'm actually not that intelligent when it comes to things like that. But what I am intelligent at is creating those partnerships, working together to try and build those relationships across the system. Because without those relationships, you can throw money at it all you like. It will never change the problems. We have to address the system solution to find a system, address the system problems to address the system solution. So actually, get your facts right, learn your budgets, and try and come into the table. Give us some solutions, give us some ideas.
Councillor Williams.
I'm not finished yet, Mr Mayor.
I'm sorry.
You told me I could answer my question. I'm not finished.
Councillor Williams, please. Thank you. Very, very good answer, and we accept that. I've heard it all. Thank you. Well done.
I had one sentence left to go, Mr Mayor. Pathetic.
Councillor Carr would like to ask Councillor Matthew Holmes, following recent publicity, when will the council convert its fleet of smaller vans to electric vehicles?
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Derby City Council only has a few small vans in its fleet. Most of these are due to be replaced with electric over the coming 12 to 15 months. At present, we have 8 electric vans, and when we have completed replacement, we should have over 15 in total. We are developing a cleaner fleet policy, which will provide guidance and direction on how and when we adopt alternatively fuelled vehicles within the authority.
Councillor Carr, have you got a supplementary?
In your response to Councillor Nater earlier, you talked about infrastructure and charging points in the city, Councillor Holmes. Now, my understanding is that the expansion of electric vehicle fleets at Stores Road is limited by the current charging capacity. So can I ask you if you have plans to put in place extra charging for these 15 vehicles and put solar panels on all those massive roofs we've got at Stores Road? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. If you can do me a favour and have a word with your group to stop voting down sensible proposals which will allow us to move forward with electric charging points. You are blocking that now actively, so please have a word.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. We'll go on to the next item on the agenda. The review and scrutiny annual report. The next item is this, and it's for the next municipal year.
It's the last municipal year.
And the last municipal year. Thanks very much indeed. Councillor Graves Senior, as the chair of the Executive Scrutiny Board, would you like to move the recommendation of the report, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Can I first of all take this opportunity to welcome Councillor Froggatt to the independent benches? Well done. And can I also suggest that although the assembly rooms is still closed, that we don't do the rehearsals in this chamber. So thank you, Mr Mayor. The report is as positive as council officers could make it. However, I feel that the executive was not as effective as it should be, in that it does not have enough influence on the cabinet decisions. The report reveals a huge amount of work non-cabinet members and external co-optees do that quite often gets filed. Overview scrutiny also perpetuates laziness among less productive councillors. I had hoped, Mr Mayor, that this council would have changed over to a committee system style leadership where individual councillors' votes counted. It would instill a sense of purpose in all councillors who want to make a difference. It cannot go unnoticed that most recommendations to the Cabinet were ignored despite overview and scrutiny being cross-party. Recommendations from a majority vote. I hope, Mr Mayor, that this year is the last year we operate an overview and scrutiny style system. I commend this to the Council.
Have we got a seconder, Mr Graves? Do you wish to speak now or later? You have the right, okay. Well, it doesn't look like it, so you've got the right now, if you wish to do so, Councillor Marshall. Some of them, Mr Graves?
I'd just like to move it, Mr Mayor.
Move to the vote. Move to the vote.
Yeah. Okay. We'll move to a vote then. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm more than pleased at the significant reduction in the number of complaints made by councillors this year. All I have to say about it is long may it continue, and I move the report as printed. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Do you wish to speak? Do you wish to speak now or reserve the right? Reserve the right, okay. Councillor Graves.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is a report that masks effectiveness in our process. The Standards Committee has no teeth and relies on exposure of misdemeanours in the press as a punishment. It also uses data protection as a reason to hide complaints. Even when a councillor is found to have overstepped the mark on a serious scale such as taxi licensing, that councillor merely has to go through the gauntlet of press coverage. Therefore, the committee is not fit for purpose and wastes a great deal of officer time and councillor time. Unfortunately, Mr Mayor, in the past it has been used for political point scoring rather than to uphold the standards of this council.
Speakers?
Any other speakers? Right. Councillor Holmes, would you like to speak? All right, we'll take it to a vote then. All in favour, please. Right. Any against? Item 11 on the agenda, to report the proposing changes to the appointments to outside bodies and charities, which is usually made at the annual general meeting. Councillor Barker will move the recommendation in this report, please. Councillor Barker.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. As you quite rightly say, this is to seek to fill outstanding vacancies. There are two recommendations. One is for Councillor Robin Wood to go on to the Derwent Valley Mills partnership with immediate effect until May 2020. And secondly, to endorse the appointment of Councillor Jerry Pearce to the Liversidge Trust with immediate effect until May of 2023. Other than that, I move the paper as printed. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Have you got a seconder?
Councillor Webb.
Councillor Webb, do you wish to speak now or reserve the right? Okay, okay. Anybody else wish to make a comment? Right, okay, so Councillor Webb doesn't want to speak, so we'll go to a vote then. All in favour, please show. Any against?
I certainly will, yes, Mr Mayor. Again, the purpose of the report is to make amendments to the Council Constitution in relation to effective control of Council resolutions and new legislation affecting particularly trading standards enforcement. There are 3 recommendations on this particular paper. I move as printed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Have we got a seconder?
Councillor Smale.
Councillor Smale? Do you wish to speak now? Okay. Thank you. Item 13. Next item, proposing amendments to the 3 codes and protocols contained within the Council Constitution relating to Council conduct. Councillor Barker. Hi, God, you're busy tonight. Please, will you move the recommendations, please?
I certainly will, Mr. Mayor. It's testing my voice as well, as you can probably hear. Again, the purpose of the report is to bring up to date the council conduct and use of council resources, particularly in connection with the LGA peer report relating to bullying, and also the Committee for Standards of Public Practice in public. Again, 3 recommendations: to approve the changes to the members' conduct and member officer protocol, to endorse the proposed internal communications strategy as detailed at 5.1, and to recommend the Standards Committee conduct a full review of the report by the Committee of Standards in Public Life. On the last one particularly, in partial answer to what Councillor Graves said earlier, I would recommend that this paper, if passed by full council this evening, moves on to standards for them to have a look at in relation to the changes that we have endorsed, and that they again then look at the standards protocols in that light. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the paper.
We've got a seconder. Speak? No. Right. Anybody else wish to speak? No. And do you? Would you speak now, Councillor Holmes? No. Right. We'll move to a vote then. All in favour, please show. Any against? Being withdrawn. Councillor Marshall is now the sole nomination, and therefore no further vote is required. Can I refer to Councillor Barker to move, please?
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Mayor. I think you've explained it quite adequately, but the purpose is, of course, is in relation following Councillor Froggatt's resignation from the Labour group on Tuesday the 3rd of September. Changes are required and are usually made, of course, at the Council AGM to ensure compliance with the requirements of the Local Government and Housing Act 1989. They dictate that the policy should be amended by this full council. 2 recommendations as such, albeit if you look at the 4.1 in particular, there is quite a few bullet points in relation to why the decision has been made. So its first point is to amend the appointments to the council committees and joint bodies as detailed in 4.1 and 4.2 of the report. And the second one is in relation to, subject to approval of the recommendation 2.1, is to receive nominations, as you quite rightly say, for the vacant position of Vice Chair of the Licensing Committee. Again, I move the paper as printed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Got a seconder, please? Okay, thank you. Anybody would like to speak? Yes, Councillor Skelton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly, I'd like to thank Councillor Froggatt for her contributions to the Fire Authority while she's been a member. I think everybody that is on the Fire Authority certainly will miss her. And also to welcome Councillor Pegg to the Fire Authority. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak? Right, okay. We move to vote then on recommendation 2.1 and 2.2. All those in favour, please show. Any against? Are you, Councillor Repton? Against? Oh, okay. Well, your hand went up, sir. Okay, all right, okay. So, yeah.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I nominate Councillor Peatfield.
Any other nominations?
Can I nominate Councillor Marshall, please?
Councillor Marshall. I'll take two. Councillor Peatfield, please show. So Peatfield has been elected to serve on the, as Vice Chair on the Licensing Committee. Item 14, which is a notice of motion. We have received one notice of motion, and that is in relation to a sustainable long-term waste strategy. Before any debate in relation to this motion, the monitoring officer has asked me to remind all councillors that details relating to the council's long-term waste management arrangements, and particularly the status of the new waste treatment facility, have been designated as exempt from publication by virtue of paragraphs 3 and 5 of Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972. Councillors, you must not disclose any information relating to the Council's long-term waste management arrangement which is not already in the public domain during the course of this debate. To assist councillors, you are referred to a copy of the Council's press statement issued on the 2nd of August 2019, a copy which you've all had. I refer this motion for Councillor Peatfield to move. Councillor Peatfield.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And thank you to whoever has circulated the press release from August, because it serves as a reminder to us all that, you indeed stated that you remain committed to fully completing the plant. Because I was going to start my speech by saying that the gates of the incinerator in Sinfin may be temporarily closed, but this administration of both Derby City and Derbyshire County Council are still determined to reopen them as soon as possible. That is in spite of 18 months of technical breakdowns and equipment failures, a missed deadline of just 2.5 years, failed targets, broken promises, and, above all, local misery. Local residents suffering from the daily stench of rotting rubbish, health concerns from the polluted air, and hundreds upon hundreds of flies in their homes, their kitchens, on their food, spreading germs and making their children ill. I'm ashamed to be a part of a council that has been informed time after time about this misery, and
of a council that has witnessed it for themselves, and yet, when presented with the opportunity to end that misery, it continues to push forward and pay for this misery to continue. Be in no doubt, Cabinet members, you and your county counterparts are now solely responsible for the future misery, illness and air pollution in this city caused by that plant. You can no longer point to a contract or an operating company and cry that your hands are tied or that it will cost us too much. You are the operating company. You rewrote that contract. Labour vehemently opposes any further investment in the Sinfin waste plant. We will continue to fight for our residents' health and well-being. We believe our waste strategy should move away from incineration and landfill to be in line with the climate emergency declaration. We do not believe that we can achieve this while remaining in an inter-authority agreement with Derbyshire County Council. We are and have been for many years contractually committed to working with Derbyshire County Council with regards to waste disposal. We have a joint waste policy and planning guidelines for developments that deal with the management of waste. In May, just 1 week before we declared a climate emergency here, at Derby County Council, they were refusing to accept that we're in a state of climate emergency. Derby City Council could by now be leading on and controlling a green waste strategy, yet instead we are tied to making joint decisions with a county council who refuse to accept that they need to act on the climate with urgency. Research now shows that incinerators are churning out double the carbon emissions that they originally predicted. If our councils are not in sync regarding climate change or targets, how can we work with them on waste disposal without compromising our climate emergency motion? We move to terminate the new waste treatment facility element of this continuity services contract and stop any further investment in the waste plant. We're asking the weight of full council to say to this cabinet, as soon as contractually possible, when once again it's decision time, when you debate whether to stop or carry on with that plant, we are asking you to please stop. Why do we insist on pushing on with an outdated, inefficient plant that is no longer viable? The whole world is increasingly moving away from waste to energy and embracing zero waste. Our climate emergency commits us to a plan to be carbon neutral, and yet we continue to fund a carbon-emitting waste plant on the doorstep of a residential area. As for this contract, there are so many unanswered questions. What have you committed our city to for 2 more years? Why can't the public read it? Where is your openness and transparency? What and when are the get-out clauses? How much money are we prepared to pour into this pit, and at what cost to our city? Where is the money coming from? When and where is the line that we have to reach before we say enough is enough? Please stop trying to put a sticky plaster on a broken leg and instead put our saved money and resources into the third part of our motion, which is applying our resources into a sustainable long-term waste strategy. Let's look at where we are right now in terms of our waste. We have 11,000 houses still with no blue bin. We have a failed brown bin sign-up target. We have a failing waste disposal plant that we continue to throw money at, and we're currently relying on landfill. We've just heard earlier this evening from Councillor Smale that we're currently only recycling, and I've done the figures, approximately 35% of our waste. Only 35% being recycled. That's 9% lower than the national average. That's nothing to boast about.
Councillor Smale, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The 2030 EU target for recycling of municipal waste is 65%. 2030 target of recycling is 65%. We're currently on 65 or 66% that we're actually sending to landfill. And the EU target to reduce landfill by 2030 is right down to 10%. Currently, UK targets are set for 2050. So I guess it's not just the economy that will go belly up if Brexit happens, it's the environment too. We have really got our work cut out and our hands tied by contracts that you have signed us up to for another 2 years at least. As the youth strike for climate change protest outside the Council House last Friday demonstrated, Derby City cares deeply about the environment, and it is this generation that must be radical. We must change our mindset from waste management to resource management. We don't have to wait for government legislation in order to act now. We have declared a climate emergency, so let's act like we actually believe in it. It is not excusable or acceptable to use contracts as a convenient way to evade our environmental and social responsibilities any longer. We need to get with the programme, get rid of the contracts that tie us to a useless, stinking, polluting incinerator, and a county council that is dictating regressive policies to us. The time for polluting, inefficient incinerators is done. We must embrace a progressive Derby City waste policy and drive our own green agenda. Mr. Mayor, I move this motion.
Councillor Shanker, I believe that you are going to second this motion. Do you wish to speak now, or?
I'd like to reserve my right to speak, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, fine.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I find it incredible that Councillor Shanker is brazen enough to bring this to full council, to change a policy that he originally supported as if he never agreed with his own party's policy. Whilst we operate an overview and scrutiny system, Mr. Mayor, this issue is really for them, and maybe it should have been suggested to them some months ago. Therefore, Mr. Mayor, I have an amendment to place.
Mr. Mayor, I second that amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's quite a simple amendment. I just wish to replace the line Council resolved to request that Council Cabinet with Council ask the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, the Executive Scrutiny Committee, to urgently look at aspects of our long-term waste policy, and in particular whether the Council should, and then continue with the rest of that Councillor Peatfield has put in a motion. Mr. Mayor, it is irresponsible for this Council to make policy on the hoof through motions that do not allow us to look at all options. Something that Labour have very often accused this very Council of. Overview scrutiny is the correct pathway for us to examine this important issue on a cross-party basis, which is what overview scrutiny is. Overview scrutiny also allows the Council and councillors to bring in expert witnesses to inform the recommendations that might come from such an investigation. It also, Mr. Mayor, prevents Councillor Shanker through Councillor Peatfield to play politics with an important issue. For clarity, the amendment states the executive because this could look at this issue themselves if they so decide, or pass it to the Community Scrutiny Committee. Either way, I'm pretty sure that this will interest many of our councillors and produce a better outcome. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Holdridge, do you wish to speak? I'll take whoever. Councillor Holdridge.
Right. Yeah.
Councillor Holdridge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to start on the substance of the amendment, I'm slightly confused that Councillor Graves thinks that this is a good path, given that he stood up earlier in this council meeting and said that executive scrutiny and all overview and scrutiny function was within this authority. has no teeth. Because it doesn't have to be considered by Council Cabinet. So I'm slightly confused as to why now he wants this to go to executive scrutiny. I can only conclude that it's because he wants to go to a body that can't make decisions and that is likely to be ignored by Cabinet, as we have seen. He's right, as we have seen over the last year and a half since the Conservatives have been in administration, that roundly overview and scrutiny has been ignored by the administration. So it doesn't seem to make sense for him particularly to be recommending this unless he wants to scupper and actually make this motion meaningless. Can I just say, though, again, I take particular offence at the insinuation that a male councillor, and we've had this before in the chamber, where actually when Councillor Peatfield made her maiden speech, a Conservative councillor sat there and at the end of her maiden speech, or it may have been her second speech, said, "Well done, Baggy." That happened in this chamber. And yet again, we have the insinuation, Mr Mayor, that a male councillor is doing his business through a female councillor. Councillor Peatfield... No, let me finish. Councillor Peatfield brought this motion. Councillor Peatfield brought this motion. She is a councillor for Sinfield. Not Councillor Schenker. He did not bring this motion.
Please. I don't like accusations across the floor. You can... Sorry. He didn't name anybody, but you are. So, look, I'm sorry, I'm not prepared to take this any further.
No, I'm sorry, point of order, Mr Mayor. Councillor Graves specifically said that Councillor Schenker... No, CP 64, a point of order under CP 64, please, Mr Mayor. Councillor Graves specifically said that Councillor Schenker, through Councillor Peatfield, was using this to play politics. He was the one that made it personal. He was the one that named a councillor. I was merely responding to that. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Schenker is seconding that motion. He had the right to speak when he gets up. Thank you very much indeed. Would you like to sum up? Sorry, Councillor Evans, would you like to speak now as the seconder?
No, Mr Mayor.
Right. Councillor Graves, would you like to sum up then, please? On your amendment? On your amendment?
Speaking in the debate.
I didn't think you can sum up on an amendment, Mr Mayor. I'd like to talk about something else, actually.
Councillor Graves, you don't want to sum up.
Okay.
And we're going to vote on the amendment then, as submitted by Councillor Graves and the amendment which you've all got. So we're going to vote on it. All those... Lost, so we go back to the substantive motion. And anybody else still wish to speak on that? No, so it's summing up now with Councillor...
No, Councillor Kerr.
Ah, sorry, Councillor Kerr, didn't see your arm, dear. Sorry about that. Councillor Kerr.
Colleagues, I think that Councillor Peatfield has made a number of very important points about our waste strategy and the things that we should be doing with it and the implications of waste as part of our climate change, our commitment to the climate change emergency. However, it's no good just Derby alone addressing climate change issues. We have to somehow influence the whole world. And luckily there are other people who are also trying to influence the whole world. But our nearest authority, our nearest waste disposal authority, as she mentioned, is dragging its feet. Now, the best way I know of influencing an organisation that is dragging its feet is actually to go on and working closely with it. So while I came into this meeting unhappy with what was being proposed for a multitude of reasons about we can't discuss the intricacies, and in fact, I don't understand the intricacies of our arrangements with the County Council. And we have to deal with the whole load of different technical solutions, which I would be pleased to be considering as part of exec scrutiny. So I was going to vote against it anyway. But I really appreciate the points she has highlighted about our waste management and the need for good waste management. But I believe we need to continue to work with the County Council, especially because it is not doing what it needs to do. It may be that if Exec Scrutiny looked at it, and Exec Scrutiny could look at it, we would find that actually what we needed to do was divide up and work separately. But without that evidence, without further discussion, without the facts and the figures, I think we need to stay with the status quo so that we can influence the County Council in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. Councillor Smale.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to be slightly brief on this because it's no great shakes that we know that the situation we're in, and some slight politicking going around once again. Points 1 and 2 in the motion is something that we cannot absolutely do at this current moment. We are now in a position of knowing where the plant is. If we did sever our service continuity contract, we'd be in a situation like what we was, if you noticed Birmingham, about 6 months ago when they had a trade union dispute where we had rubbish piling up the streets of Birmingham. There's no way that I would accept our city to be bogged down in residual waste because we can't have a service continuity programme. So we cannot accept this motion. I do accept point 3, however. We should be looking to change our waste strategy. We should be looking at minimising, reusing, recycling and composting. I absolutely get that and I will support that. And if there's anyone that wants to come to my door and support any initiatives that can help us reduce our residual waste, then let's go for it. Let's hold hands and run out there and get that targets. Let's meet those targets. But one thing, I was not going to go quite so much on the attack on this, but I found it absolutely incredible that Councillor Peatfield can give me a lecture about our recycling rates in the city after we've only been in control for 18 months. What this administration's done in the last 18 months has been a lot more than the previous Labour administration ever did in the 6 years it was in control. You removed brown bins, you removed blue bins from 70 streets from your own Labour-controlled wards, and you did nothing about the recycling rates. So I will not take a lecture from any single one of you about our recycling efforts. We are doing the absolute best to drive recycling rates away from that plant. And we know the issues that plant's got. You make it seem like that we do not care about this plant. This plant has probably been one of the worst things that this city has ever been dealt with. But we're not in an easy get-out clause situation. So this administration will not be supporting this motion, but we will do every bit we can to drive our recycling rates up. Thank you.
We'll go back to Councillor Shankar. Councillor Shankar, would you like to second?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to make one point clear from the beginning, this motion has duly been inspected, checked by the monitoring officer, and all 3 aspects of the resolutions in the motion can be done by this council, just to make that clear. It was virtually a year ago, Mr. Mayor, when I stood in this chamber speaking on a motion on this same subject. I said it then and I'll repeat it now. Derby and Derbyshire's waste management contract may be dividing us councillors, but it is uniting people across our city, protecting communities to improve air quality and save public money. It's an issue which extends far beyond politics. Every political party in this chamber has at some stage been involved with progressing this scheme, and each must accept a share of that accountability. And every political party now must come together and say, enough is enough. Having said that, last year and most of this year, we were being told we can't terminate. It will bankrupt the city. The plant's almost commissioned. Things have improved. Bear with us. What a load of nonsense. I won't dwell on what I genuinely believe has been further dither, delay and indecision by this Cabinet, and the total ignorance towards the motion passed at full council last year to terminate the old contract. As we all know, the very contract we were wrongly told couldn't be terminated has indeed been terminated. What is probably even worse and more shocking having been released from such a contract for some totally bewildering reason, this Cabinet, along with their masters at County Hall, immediately jumped back into bed with a company that has let this city down so badly. And if that wasn't bad enough, it, in my opinion, has been engineered so there would be no opportunity to reflect, scrutinise or even seek competitive tenders, let alone look at the important issue of more sustainable options for our city. I am reliably informed there are several stages to this new contract and that I, along with the public, have been refused copies of. That allows the councils to walk away and stop wasting more good money after bad. If members are not aware of the details and financial implications of the new contract, then I suggest you make it your business to find out. It continues to have implications far, far wider than Sinfin, Osmaston and Normanton. It's openly been admitted and confirmed in Cabinet reports a fundamental problem from the previous contract and inter-authority agreement was that we were shackled by the County Council. We could not act in the best interests of the city alone. Yet certain Cabinet members were having secret talks with the county on a new contract and a new inter-authority agreement even before the old one was terminated. The response to an EIR I have submitted will be interesting, if I get one. This motion intends to address the burden put upon the city as our residual waste strategy levels only contribute to approximately a third of the plant's capacity. Why are we carrying such a big risk of having this broken plant and paying 50% of the capital costs? Why are we now paying operating costs for a plant and a site that does not operate? Further, it gives us a unique opportunity presented to us by the failure of Renewy and its partners to be able to take stock of our waste strategy, reflect on the changing needs of our society and act on an ever-worsening impact on the climate. It was this chamber, Mr. Mayor, that resolved that we have a climate emergency in our city. We must therefore support applying all our resources into creating a sustainable, long-term waste strategy that focuses on minimising, reusing, recycling and composting to significantly minimise our reliance on landfill. I urge all members to support this motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Shanker. Councillor Cooper, wish to speak?
I certainly do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Mr. Mayor, this motion about the waste strategy of the city by the Labour Group is frankly a shameless ploy to paper over the cracks of the hypocrisy we have heard just this evening from the Labour Party group, who regularly play to the gallery in this chamber and outside given half a chance on their illusory credibility on their stance on climate change. I simply cannot stay silent on this disgraceful intransigence by a discredited and depleted group of chancers. Councillor Peatfield mentions long-term waste management and rubbish rotting on the streets. With Labour in opposition, that possible situation has greatly been reduced significantly by the people of Derby rejecting Labour at the ballot box. Mr. Mayor, the hypocrisy from the Labour group does not seem to know any
Cooper,
bounds.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but can you keep to the point, please, because you're going off at a tangent. I'd like to
I'm talking about the
push
motion,
on
sir.
and get it dealt with. Thank you.
Some people might not like to hear this, Mr. Mayor, but it has to be said. This administration has been working hard to improve the recycling levels in the city since we took control of this council. We have ended the hated Labour brown bin tax, which has already seen recycling rates improve. Though, Mr. Mayor, I have news for the Labour group. All the wards where there is a Labour councillor, the sign-up rate does not go above 55%, and all are in the bottom 6 of the sign-up rate league table. Have Labour councillors been promoting the all year round and free at the point of use brown bin service? The results speak for themselves, Mr. Mayor. I say no. I even invited the Darley Ward councillors to engage with the residents of Darley Ward to promote the brown bin recycling service.
Sir Cooper, I think you're going well off the point and what have you, talking about another area of Derby. I think we've got what you've got, and I'd like to stop it there if you don't mind.
Let's talk about recycling, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Ashburner.
Well, hello, this will be fairly brief. We've been given we've been given access to confidential information relating to this, which cannot be revealed, so this will be shorter than I would wish. The Labour have stated at the start of their presentation that there will be no investment. This must result in no change, or it will result in less incineration and more landfill, which is not a good change. That'll do. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak before I go back to the proposer for summing up? Anybody else? Right, Councillor Peatfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, unless I've had a drastic hair transplant, I am not Councillor Shanker. I am most definitely Councillor Peatfield, and I have proposed this motion. Yeah. Councillor Graves. I really just wanted to respond to Councillor Kerr's point about influencing the county on climate emergency, and in order to do that we should remain partners with them. I only wish that that was the case. Unfortunately though, we have been told time and again that they are the ones with the resources, the officers, and there just is no influencing them. They are the ones that are leading the way on all decisions regarding our waste contract, on the pink papers, and even on these press releases that we see here. They are the ones holding us back from progressing, and that's why we're proposing to cancel that contract and stop working alongside them. We just are not on the same page when it comes to climate change. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Peatfield. We'll go to a vote now on the motion as per the agenda. All those in favour of the motion, please show. All those against, please show. The motion is lost.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes business for this meeting. Thank you for your participation, and I thank you for your indulgence.
What you do with your own